everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, and Patreon, and contact Dayspring Discussions on the Facebook group, the Twitter account, and dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Well, guys, happy Tuesday morning. It is a glorious Tuesday morning, but also kind of a sad one. Star Wars Rebels had their series finale last night. Lisa and I sat down and watched it, and now we're going to share our thoughts on it. So I am joined today by the mistress of Mandalore herself, Miss Lisa McGahee.
Hello.
All right, guys. So, spoilers, of course. If you haven't watched the last 3 episodes or the series finale of Star Wars Rebels, pause us, come back later because we are going full spoilers. I don't see how we can hold back at this point. So pause this, come back later if you haven't watched it, and then hear our thoughts. So, before we get into it, we're going to do kind of like a series finale, but also kind of a series thought about it too. So, before we really get into it, kind of going back a little bit as far as the start of Star Wars Rebels, I started watching from the beginning. Lisa, you kind of jumped on a little later on, like season 2, right?
I think maybe toward the end of season 1.
Yeah, because something like that. Because that was kind of right when you were getting into Star Wars. You know, you were in your Padawan phase still, and you know, you started watching the Rebels and started reading the books, so you jumped to Master Stage at that point, and you were catching up and all that. So for me with Rebels, I thought it was okay. When I saw that first episode, my immediate thought was, this is like Serenity in Star Wars, because it was like this group of misfits on the ship and they're doing jobs. So for me, it was kind of like a Firefly or a Serenity in Star Wars to start off, but it felt really nice because you had that Star Wars element. You had the TIE fighters. It was set during the original trilogy era or close to it, to where again it felt like Star Wars. But it really wasn't until the season 1 finale that really got me, because with Kanan and the Grand Inquisitor, that fight I thought was great. I loved it, and that was really when I got hooked. Like, oh yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. Of course, at the end of the season 1, you got Ahsoka and Vader. So then I got excited because you knew that's what they were going to do in season 2, the Ahsoka and Vader thing. But by the end of season 1, I was totally hooked. So for you, Lisa, what was the moment, if you can think of it, that really got you into Rebels?
Ahsoka. I love Ahsoka. Like seeing an adult Ahsoka come back and be awesome.
Be awesome.
is what she is. No, I mean, I think that was what really got me. I mean, I like all the characters, you know, and over the years, obviously I've grown to like each of the characters more and more. Uh-huh. You know, initially I was like, well, they're all right. But then, you know, you spend years with them, and now I am, you know, incredibly attached to all of the characters. You know, Chop's like my favorite droid now.
Chopper, yes. Which they announced too in the finale, because people have been asking who does the voice of Chopper, what's the voice of Chopper, and they finally announced it was Dave Filoni himself who does the voice of Chopper. So
I love Chop, but yeah, I mean, I think just over the years, I think bringing Ahsoka into it is what made me really like get invested in it, and then I really started to enjoy all the characters. Mm-hmm. You know. A ton. And
Filoni has said himself, you know, this is very much almost a companion piece to Clone Wars, mm-hmm. because you have so many characters that were in the Clone Wars series that come back. You have Ahsoka, Hondo, Rex. I know I'm missing a couple out mm-hmm. there as well, but you know, it's good because Clone Wars ended on a rough note where they didn't get a chance to finish it, pretty much. Mm-hmm. There are so many more stories that some were halfway done, some were still in concept. With this, Filoni got to end it how he wanted. He told his complete story, the story really of Ezra Bridger of Lothal. Mm-hmm. So, jumping ahead, series finale. Let's take the epilogue out of it just for a sec. As a finale, the ending, pretty much to the end of freeing Lothal, what did you think?
I mean, I think it did what it was supposed to do in terms of Lothal. Like, that was the whole series was supposed to be about Lothal. So, I mean, I think as, like, a Star Wars fan in general, it can seem a little bit disappointing because, like, we all are, like, wanting all these big picture things. Uh-huh. And the episode was really about Lothal, which I think it needed to be.
Yeah, of course.
But it is sometimes, you know, looking, like, I think about it, I'm like, oh, I kind of wish it was bigger.
Yeah.
But it's not supposed to be bigger.
No,
it's supposed to be about Lothal.
Lothal, yeah. That's the thing about the series, too, is I always thought about that as it went on, was like, Ezra was from Lothal, and it seemed like wherever they went, they always came back to Lothal for like the Jedi Temple, or for, in season 2, their first meeting with Vader. It always came back to Lothal, which is, what it should be. This was the story of Ezra and Lothal, really, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. It wasn't grand like I wanted it to be. The thing about it is, not many people died.
Yeah, but the people that did die were the ones that you were really glad they did. Like, watching Governor Price and Rook bite it, that's the best.
Governor Price. And I like, too, because of the fact that, again, Governor Price, you go back to the Thrawn book, when you first meet her and see her development.
She's such a piece of shit.
Again, yeah, you go all the way through that. So it's not just watching her Rebels, it's watching her, again, in the Thrawn book, having her rise up and what she's done and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially, I think people who only know her through the show, it probably wasn't as rewarding to watch her get killed as it was for people like us who have read her story arc from the beginning, to where you really saw what she came from and what a piece of work she really is.
Correct.
And really understanding the background between her and Ryder.
Yeah.
That's all in the book.
I totally forgot about it until they mentioned it, that he was, originally the governor of Lothal until she pretty much,
usurped his power.
Exactly.
Finagled around. But yeah, I mean, I think for people, and that's one of the things I really love about the books, being able to read the books, and because they build on your experiences within the movies and the shows. And that's why it's so frustrating for me when sometimes the movies take the books and they're like, push, push, push. But in this case, that book really built your understanding of Thrawn and of Governor Price. And so it really made it that much better when she got what was coming to her.
And of course, I've heard people online. I was on Twitter last night, and people were complaining again about the use of Thrawn. They have been complaining about Rebels, and everyone was so excited when they brought him in, and they feel like they haven't used him as well as he should be used or could be used, and he hasn't really done a lot. For me, I got to put it out of my mind, because when people say that, they think about Legends. And Legends does not exist anymore. They could take Thrawn and make him a court jester for all they wanted, really, They're still honed in on what Thrawn should be, and that's kind of what, people's problem is with, say, The Last Jedi and Luke Skywalker, in my opinion. They're so honed in on what they want, what they feel like a character should be, or what something should be, they can't appreciate really what it is. Thrawn, I gotta admit, I would like to see more of him, but he did have his big moments, like at the end of Season 3, when he attacked the Rebel base, and at the end of this one when, he started blowing up Lothal, so to speak, too. He's ruthless in that sense. He didn't die. On Rebels Recon, Dave Filoni said himself, yes, Ezra and Thrawn are both still alive. Whether they stay together or not, I don't know. But how do you feel, I'm totally switching off now, going to Ezra?
Well, hold on, I want to say something about Thrawn.
Okay, she wants to say something about Thrawn. Take it away.
So, I was going to say, I think what they've done with Thrawn so perfectly, though, is they introduced him back into canon in the show, but he really had his moments in the book.
Yeah.
And there's going to be another book. So, I mean, I think people who want more of Thrawn, read the book.
Okay, so about the book, too. So, at the end of Rebels, Thrawn is gone, right? So, as far as the setting of the next book...
Yeah, I don't know.
But he was gone for a couple episodes here at the end. Remember? He went back to the Emperor to tell him about his, TIE
Defender
first being destroyed or whatever. I feel like maybe that might be a place right there to tell that story.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? We don't know what the story is going to be in the book.
Well, we know it's going to be him and Vader.
Right.
We don't know when, though.
Right, we don't know when. So, whatever. But I'm just saying, all these people that are bitching about Thrawn not being Thrawn in the show isn't about Thrawn. Thrawn is a side character in the show Rebels. Rebels is about the rebels. Yeah. It's about the crew of the Ghost.
It's kind of like how the people in the Marvel Studio movies complain about the villains. It's not about the villains. It's about the heroes.
It's about the heroes. And this show is about the rebels. It's about the crew of the Ghost. Thrawn is a side character that is thrown in for contrast, a villain for certain episodes. If you want Thrawn and you want to see Thrawn and what you expect, then read the books. That's where he is.
Yeah. Well, they just made the comic adaptation too, so
there we go.
You can read the comic adaptations if you don't read real books like me.
Whatever.
Okay, so let's give it to Ezra here. I was saying up until like the moment we started the episode, I thought Ezra was toast. I thought they put so much emphasis on that last episode when he chose not to save Kanan and he had to learn the lesson of Kanan's self-sacrifice. I felt like that's what Ezra was going to do as well. And in a way he did. He sacrificed himself, made himself get lost, so to speak, in order to save the rebels, to get rid of Thrawn with that aspect. But going back even a little further, how did you feel about the whole Ezra Emperor thing here in the piece of the temple that was taken out? You had the Emperor try to appear to Ezra as kind of a good person, as kind of like a nice person, to try to get him to open that portal again, or open up to that world of the world between worlds, I guess, is what he was trying to do there. And Ezra decided not to. He decided to finally let go of his parents to go allegedly save his other family.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
I thought it was really cool. I liked it. I mean,
yeah, the way they flickered too, like at the end there between like Emperor and Palpatine, kind of. I really thought the way they just handled that whole thing, and it was a good moment, very good moment for Ezra. The whole series, he's been talking about his parents, and he wishes his parents were still alive, and to him at the end let go of that. Again, kind of a self-sacrifice sort of thing going on there.
I mean, I just think it's what the Emperor does. He uses your he uses your love for others as your weakness.
And during that scene,
it's very Anakin.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was thinking of that time when he was wooing Anakin during episode 3 about what he was doing, with Ezra as well, and the comparisons to that.
I mean, he was certainly trying to bring Ezra to the dark.
Yeah.
And to open the portal
just
again.
Use him, yeah. He was trying to use Ezra.
Well, I think he realizes how strong Ezra is too, obviously, and he's always looking for the next strongest person to have as his new apprentice. I mean, he's always on the lookout for the strongest one.
Yeah, and Filoni was talking too. Again, the reason, so at the end there, the battle for Lothal really never came. And we come to find out it's because the Emperor, the whole reason that Lothal was so focused on was because of basically the Jedi Temple and basically Ezra and Kanan, because that's where they were. That's why the Emperor had his focus on them. The temple was gone. Ezra and Kanan were gone. So, and this new kid, Luke Skywalker, pops up. So then the Emperor shifts his focus, so to speak, and that's why we never got the big battle for Lothal, because Palpatine didn't care about it anymore. That's basically what it came down to. At the beginning of Rebels, of course, it's much like the beginning of Clone Wars. You see a new character pop up, Ahsoka Tano, and you're like, well, she's not in episode 3, so she's got to die. And of course, in Rebels, we're like, well, these people aren't in Rogue One or A New Hope, so they have to die. And pretty much none of them died. And that's the thing I loved, and some people were complaining about too, of course, on Twitter, is that we're expanding Star Wars. After 40 years, we're just tipping the iceberg of expanding the universe of Star Wars. I love it. Some other people don't. I think it's awesome, especially with these characters, how much they have grown and will continue to grow in the future.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's exactly. I mean, I agree. I think it's a good idea not to kill them all off, because there are so many stories that can be told about the Star Wars universe. It's like Campia is always saying, look, we just
expand it.
I need more. We don't have to always hear about the same people we've always known. So now we can see, the crew of the Ghost has gone in all these different directions. So there's ways you can expand the Star Wars universe in many different directions now, where you have some characters that and how they are interacting and experiencing other places and other people and other things, just expanding the world and hoping that at some point they all connect back together, or pieces of them can connect back together to give you a snippet of of what's to come. But I love it. I love that they all made it, and it shows that they all were important parts of the rebellion in different ways. So even though they're not all in Star Wars. We don't see necessarily them in the Battle of Endor. It doesn't mean they weren't there.
Yeah,
and we don't see how they directly affected. Maybe they weren't necessarily at all the meetings with Mon Mothma, but that doesn't mean that they weren't part of the rebellion. They weren't doing their part in another way. Just because we didn't see them in those movies.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they said, Hera fought at the Battle of Endor. There were a lot of ships up there above Endor, And then, like, say, the Battle of Hoth, there were a lot of soldiers on the ground. Why couldn't one of them be Zeb or, Callus or something like that?
Yeah, just because we didn't see them
because we in those original trilogies, in the original films, we were focused on Han, Leia, Luke. That's the story we were seeing, okay? With a bunch of side characters, of course, on the ground that we didn't see. Who's to say one of them is not Sabine or Zeb or something like that? So, all right, this part I thought was cool. Was at the end there when Ezra got the plan of what to do about the Empire, how to get them off Lothal. And we see this giant, like, headquarters all throughout the series, and it never crossed my mind that this thing's actually a ship.
Oh, that's awesome.
That the Empire uses these style of ships to basically just come down on a planet.
It's like a mobile command center.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like, and they come down and just take over. So Ezra got the idea to bring them all together and then fly them up and then, poof, explode.
Fabulous.
I thought it was great, of course. Now, you can't have a nice Star Wars ending without a good explosion, right? We do see the end of Governor Price. Of course, we're happy about it because she's an evil bitch.
Yes, she sure is.
How do you feel? Were you satisfied with the way, like, she got to that arc? I mean, I guess. Like, her arc throughout it, like, at the end she was so in command, and then at the last couple of episodes she kind of lost it to where, she did mess up Thrawn's plan.
Well,
and she did get captured by the rebels.
Yeah. No, I think it's exactly her. Like, if you read the book, she got where she was, not because she was such a great leader, but because she was manipulative and she knew how to get what she wanted from the people that she needed to get it from. So she wasn't like this great military tactician. She was a stupid kid from Lothal who got screwed over by the Empire originally, and then in her quest to fight back, decided to become one of them because she saw that was the way for power.
Yeah.
I think it was exactly perfect for her to be so, like, high and mighty up to the very last minute, even though she really was a worthless piece of shit.
Fair enough. Okay. So yeah, overall, like I said, the ending of the actual Rebels, I liked it. Especially, I talked about this last week when I reviewed the last couple episodes, was Dave Filoni himself has said it's a story of Ezra, but the secondary character journey is also Sabine. And you saw that, especially in Season 3 when she went back to Mandalore and faced her parents and all that, he's talking about how, it's about those two growing up. And he mentioned it in Rebels Recon that I watched last night, that relationship that her and Ezra have, and how people always thought it was kind of like almost like a romantic relationship, but really it's more like a brother, sister, best friend kind of thing. He never saw it as kind of romantic, but it's about them growing up, about these kids becoming more like the adults they see, which is Hera and Kanan. And I mentioned in the last episode, I saw that when Kanan was gone. Of course, there's the old story, the master has to go to see if the apprentice has actually, sunk in the lessons or learned the lessons. And I saw Kanan in Ezra in those last couple episodes. You see Kanan in these episodes too, where Ezra is no longer a boy. He is a man, so to speak. He's grown up, and same with Sabine, and that was, again, what it was all about, Ezra's journey. And I liked where the journey took us. I liked that at the beginning of this series, I didn't like Ezra. I thought he was a whiny little bitch, much like Anakin.
Just like people thought about Ahsoka at the beginning. That's what it was. Because they were kids. They're kids. Exactly. They were kids thrust into an environment that they weren't ready for.
Did you see, too, I posted on the Facebook group where it's gone from Ahsoka lives to Ezra lives now, the hashtag. But yeah, the journey of the character, exactly. And that's what he did with Ahsoka in Clone Wars, He took this character that, might seem a little weird, and then took him on the journey. I always said at the beginning, I felt like Ezra was a better version of Anakin. And, he is, because he chose the light side instead of the dark side. So there goes that. Okay, so you want to get the epilogue?
Sure.
All right, here we go, guys. Okay, so the last 5 minutes, of course, you have what happens to the crew of the Ghost after the original trilogy, after the Battle of Endor, really. So starting off, we got Zeb. He takes Callus back with him to meet his people, and he sees that Callus, at the beginning was pretty much a jerk in the series. He prided himself in the fact that he almost wiped out, or thought he did wipe out, Zeb's people. Exactly. So, and there was that pivotal episode there with Zeb where they both were stranded. That really was the turning point for Callus in the series. And, I think it's really says something a lot, too, about the world, where it's like, people go on the battlefields and they're firing against, someone across from them. But just stop, take a minute, and talk about your differences, and you realize you're not that different, So, thoughts on that?
No, I thought it was awesome. I really like that. I like that at the end of this, when everyone went their own ways, that Callus and Zeb went off together. I think that's awesome. Just because you saw them really start from hating each other more than anything else to having that moment when they kind of had to work together to survive, and then becoming fast friends, and to the point where Zeb feels comfortable to take him to his home world, to his people, and to show him you didn't do the thing you thought you did, you can stop beating yourself up about it.
He can have some peace, so to speak, in that, especially since Callus, again, like a lot of characters now, have become such a popular character.
Callus
has gone on his own journey, much like Ezra and Sabine and all these other characters too.
I really hope that they do something. I hope that all of these end up being something, but I'd love to see the adventures. I think as a kid's thing it'd be fun, the adventures of Zeb and Callus.
I don't know about a book series. I can see this more as a comic series.
Something like that.
I think a comic
just to
would
see
work
what
well
they're
for
gonna
that.
do together now, because they are both warriors too,
of honor.
And I think that they could really do some cool things together.
It's one of those with this too. The Zeb episode they featured with him and his people. I'm not a big fan of it. I know it's important to Zeb, but it's one of those episodes that I skip. But that's the great thing now, is we learn from the space whales. There are any episode you think is a filler episode, because I didn't like the space whales episode either, but Filoni never wastes anything, and it
Everything
all
has a
comes
purpose.
back, So now it's like when I go back and rewatch the series, I have to watch the space whales. I have to watch the Zeb episode because I know it comes into play later on. All right, of course, going to Hera. I'm going to let you start off on this one with your thoughts.
I love that Hera has a kid now. I love it. It was just funny because what was it, last week?
Last week, yeah.
Just last week, we were talking and I was like, I love, they had that whole on the edge about Hera and Kanan. You never really knew.
She finally said she loved him.
Or if they weren't a couple, or what exactly, and just back from, one of the very first Star Wars novels I read in the new canon was A New Dawn. But it was before I really got into Rebels. It was kind of right when we first started watching Rebels. I read A New Dawn. And so I liked it at the time, but I didn't love it because I didn't really know the characters yet. I was just learning them.
Well, for me, it was I watched the first episode of Rebels when it aired, and then I started reading New Dawn just to get an idea of a little bit of the characters and familiarize myself with them. So.
Yeah, but I didn't really like it that much because I didn't know the characters yet. I didn't really but that's how, Hera and Kanan met. And so I just went back a few weeks ago and I reread it. Now that I have had all these years, basically right after Kanan died, I went back and reread it. And to kind of go back and look at how they met again and everything else. And so then we were because their relationship has always been kind of enigmatic, Are they a couple? Are they not a couple? They obviously have feelings for each other, but is it we work together, so we're not going to go there? Or, I just feel like it was always one of those things that was everybody was wondering, but there was never anything. And then in that last episode with Kanan, Hera tells him that she loves him, and we already knew he loved her, you could totally tell.
Yeah, he's proved that throughout the series.
But she said it, and so then but then he died right away, So then I was like, do you think that they ever and then all of a sudden here we're like, oh, yep, they sure did.
Well, okay, so then for me, of course, first off, after, on Twitter last night, I put this little post, and we're like, get ready for all the fan art of Hera and Kanan bumping uglies.
Oh, God,
okay?
Yes.
And then you got to think about timing-wise, because I really want to know the biological makeup now of a Twi'leks, okay?
Well, a Twi'lek.
Twi'lek, yes.
Well, especially because I'm looking at him, and he looks pretty human.
Yeah, always half human. I get it, but he's got green hair.
Right, but he's got green hair. But, like, number one, not all Twi'leks are green. His green isn't the same kind of green as Hera. And the Leku are very important. They all have that. So, like, how strong in the genetic makeup is the Leku? Because, like, he doesn't have any. But his ears are exceedingly large.
That's
but we've never really seen Hera's ears. Maybe she doesn't have ears.
I don't know.
But she must have ears because she has, like, those little headphone things on. But I don't know. I guess I'd never really thought about the ears of a Twi'lek. But anyway, he's very humanoid, and so that's why it makes me wonder, like, how I would have expected him to look like a little bit more of a cross.
Yeah, I guess he does look very human.
He looks very human.
A little more than he should, I think, in my opinion. But yeah, so for me, it's like, okay, so let's just, if we think of it, let's just say, for instance, they have the same kind of gestation period, or the way it works is very similar to humans. Okay, so when was the first or latest possible time they could have bumped uglies?
Just before he died.
No, because she was captured.
Oh, that's right.
Remember,
so
she was tortured.
She was captured.
Exactly.
They didn't have her very long, though.
Probably at least a couple days. At that point, and then
a couple days in the grand scheme of a child's gestation is that big of a deal?
I'm just trying to get perspective of when he was born, because, first off, of course, Hera's doing all this, fighting and stuff like that, and from the time, say, they might have had sex to the end of the series has to be probably a couple weeks, maybe?
Yeah, so she probably didn't even know she was pregnant yet.
Okay, so we got that, and then, so now let's think of it, say, 9 months, so to speak. If we fast forward 9 months, you're pretty much looking Rogue One and New Hope era, right? Kind of. Yeah, so and we know the Ghost flew during the Battle of Scarif as well. So we're assuming she was in there. Whether she was like full on pregos at that point or had already given birth, don't know.
I mean, it's possible too if she had already given birth. I mean, you can't imagine she would have stayed away from the fight very long. Not after what Cameron.
She was in the Battle of Endor, which is technically 3 years after New Hope. So.
Right, I'm just saying, like,
even if
we're talking about Rogue One time, like Scarif or whatever, I'm saying, like, with that, even if she had just had a baby, say, you really think that would have kept her away from the battle? Like, when she knows Kanan gave his life for that cause, like, and for those people, I think she would have just taken him to her family as a baby so she could go fight.
I think the opposite. I think the reason we don't see her as much in the original trilogy because she's busy taking care of him during those first couple of years or first year or two.
I disagree. I just don't see Hera doing that.
You want to hand Nora off to, like, after a year old to go fight?
I'm saying Hera is not me. I'm not a fighter.
I'm just saying, to her, of course,
she's been fighting for this cause for all these years. You really think that she's
gonna
be like, sorry, I can't fight today. I have a baby now.
Exactly, but you know more than anyone how much a baby changes you. Okay, she has a priority of the rebellion. I get that, but she also has a baby, which means her priorities have shifted at least a little bit.
Okay, let me just use as perspective, and this is a complete correlation. I'm gonna relate this back to Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Lupin and Tonks. Brand new baby. And they are fighting for a bigger picture.
Bad parents.
Fighting for a bigger cause. Had spent their entire adult lives practically fighting for a bigger purpose, a bigger cause. And at that moment, the well-being of the entire universe was more important than their son at that moment because they wanted a better world for him. And they were willing to let somebody else watch their child for them while they went and gave their lives for their cause. I believe that is how Hera is. I believe, knowing that Kanan gave his life for this cause, knowing that he was protecting them and doing the best thing for the universe, that she would have willingly left her child with her family or with people that she trusted so she could go and fight for the cause that she had literally been fighting for almost all her life. I do not think that is an unrealistic thing for someone like her.
Maybe he was actually strapped to her the whole time. While she was flying, she's like, got the little harness on her chest, and she's like, all right, let's go into battle.
I mean, it's possible. She's obviously teaching him to fly already in this picture.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that I just don't see her getting pregnant stopping her from being a part of this when she helped build this rebellion.
I agree. I mean, and she was very passionate about it.
Yes, she was.
It was just a thought. I'm just, talking here.
I mean, I am definitely all the time talking about how parents just don't moms just don't abandon their kids. But I don't think she was abandoning him. I don't think that's by any. She was fighting for something she believed in to make a better world.
Who do you think she left him with then?
Well, she has family on Ryloth.
Oh yeah, but they're fighting too. They're battling as well.
Yeah, but that's not like every inch of the planet is under. I mean, I don't know.
I got it. Total perfect story right here. She hands him off to Hondo. Hondo, the piglet, and the baby. Boom. There's your comedy right there. There's your perfect comedy little short.
You're so ridiculous.
But come on. That would be hilarious. Hondo and the baby. Come on. Eat it, Tom Selleck. All right. We're done with that.
Yeah, please be.
But, okay. So, all right. Moving on. Let's go to the big one. Sabine. Like I said, we were talking about how,
Oh, yeah, here you can totally tell it's a space whale.
Can you? I don't know. I feel like, okay, so we're talking about Sabine's shoulders. She always looked at the art. And in the epilogue, on one shoulder is the Rebel Alliance symbol. And the other one, I couldn't quite tell what it was. It looked like a lizard. So I was on Twitter last night, and I asked a question. And by the time I got back to it, I had looked on StarWars.com on the episode guide. And in the trivia gallery, it says it's actually a Purrgil, otherwise known as the Space Whales, which took Ezra and Thrawn away. And then, of course, Leland Chee, part of the Star Wars Story Group, actually responded to the tweet as well, giving me the link after I already found it. So thanks again, Leland, for that. So, Sabine, you have the whole conversation with her and Ezra. Do you think Ezra was trying to tell Sabine there, come find me? Do you think really that's what he meant? Because that's kind of what the narration she was saying was like. Originally, she thought that those conversations, those brief sentences they had at the end of the episode or throughout the episode was take care of Ryloth. Or Ryloth. Lothal. Take care of Lothal. But now in this epilogue, she feels like he was saying, come find me.
I don't know. I need to go back and watch it again.
Yeah, I think it could go either way. I think it's really at the end, like now that the war is over, because as soon as Ezra leaves, that's when the Civil War really goes into effect. The original trilogy starts up, Rogue One, the rebels come together, and they're fighting this battle. And this is post-Endor. So really it could be, okay, the battle's done. The war is over.
Lothal is safe.
Now I can go find Ezra. Mm-hmm. It's kind of what I'm kind of taking it as, I guess.
And I found Ahsoka. So now I have my traveling.
What do you think of her look now too, with the shorter hair?
I like it.
And that's I thought there was a better picture of her with the.
I don't know, but I love this picture.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna get to Ahsoka in a minute. Let's stay on Sabine here, okay? Let's stay on Sabine just for another second. With her again, I like the fact that she is kind of the secondary character, I feel like, in the series, and her growth. And I love that, much like the other characters, she didn't die. Mm-hmm. And that's great. We had the crew of the Ghosts, all of them together, and now they're all split off to where you can tell at least 3 to 4 different stories now, with Zeb, Hera, Sabine, even Ezra. Mm-hmm.
I would love to see a story, too, of Hera and Jason, where he starts to develop his Force abilities.
But it's not to say he will.
I know, but I'm hoping that he does. Uh-huh. And that, he doesn't necessarily, he wouldn't even know how to cultivate it. He doesn't have anyone to teach him. Yeah, but I would love to see that he has some Force ability.
Which, by the way, too, someone asked me on Twitter, or someone asked a question on Twitter, how do you spell, I saw the wolf on his shoulder, yep. Mm-hmm. How do you spell Jason, and I figured, before I even saw this picture that gave me the spelling of it, I figured, I was like, well, it's probably Jacen, because I feel like they're referencing Han and Leia's kid from Legends was named Jacen Solo, spelled exactly like that, who grew up to become Darth Caedus, which really is just the Legends version of Kylo Ren, is really what it came down to. But yeah, I figured they're making some reference to the Legends character, much like in Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, in the Legends novels, Luke named his kid Ben. So switching around a little bit in that respect. All right, let's just get to it. Ahsoka the White.
She looks amazing.
So
I kind of am sad that I already got my tattoo. I kind of want to get this now.
Kind of get that one. She's like fully wise,
she looks badass.
Ahsoka the White. Now the question.
I want to see her outfit underneath. Looks like she has a turtleneck on.
Like a gray kind of thing going on, like a gray Jedi perhaps. Or
God,
something
I can't wait for this story.
So, oh man. So at the end of the epilogue, we have Sabine. Looks like Sabine and Ahsoka are going to go find Ezra. And what does Ezra say, or what does Ahsoka say to Ezra at the end of that last episode?
I promise I'll find you.
I promise I'll find you. So it looks like she's going to fulfill her promise of going to find Ezra. He's probably out in the far reaches, in the unexplored quadrants of the galaxy, because the galaxy is a very big place. And as much as I want to see this journey of Ahsoka and Sabine to find Ezra, I cannot wait to hear the story of what happened post-jump with Ezra and Thrawn. I mean, did they stay together? Did they break apart immediately? What
I'm hoping that if they do this in a book, that the book will be both those things. It'll be like be like Sabine and Ahsoka trying to find Ezra, their journey, and with like flashes to what has happened to
the
Thrawn
two and the
Ezra.
two.
Because those two stories I think are really going to fit together.
Yeah. So people are thinking, of course, this is their next animated. This is Filoni's next animated series,
God,
which would make sense because it does look like it features Ahsoka, who he is. It's like his little girl, his daughter. He made her. He's very protective of her, so it makes sense. I could see this like being the next animated series, but then I could see like the Ezra Thrawn thing being like a book to set it up or whatever.
I'd be fine with that.
So now you wanted Ahsoka to pop up in this series finale, season finale, especially since we knew she was going to hide out until this point because she didn't want to interfere with the time stream, so to speak. Time travel, it's complicated. If she would have went back further, then Ezra might not have been in the world between worlds. He wouldn't have saved her, etc., etc. So she could have popped up. So my question is, if we knew she was alive, where was she during the original trilogy? Why wasn't she helping the rebellion? Why wasn't she helping Luke with Vader, Stuff like that. That's my questions I have.
Maybe she was. Just because we didn't see her interact with them doesn't mean she didn't.
Maybe. Perhaps.
Maybe she was there.
But why didn't she play a bigger part? Why wasn't she there in the throne room to help take it down the Emperor and Vader?
I'm just saying, we don't know that.
We don't know
what her interactions were. We don't know what she was doing. I would love to know that. I would happily accept multiple more stories about Ahsoka.
Of course. Yeah, so
there's not nearly enough Star Wars books coming out soon enough.
I know, right?
So we need
I
some more.
cannot believe how little books we have. I mean, basically all the books that come. We have the Thrawn book coming out. This week, actually, I think is when the Last Jedi book comes out, the novelization. And then we have the Solo and all the things related to Solo. But there's nothing like by itself, The lack of Star Wars books does have me scratching my head, especially now that we're post Last Jedi, that we know what happened between Ben and Luke all those years ago. Let's start filling in some of those gaps more of, those 30 years, which I think this is going to do a little bit of with Ahsoka and Sabine, post Return of the Jedi. But they're going to be off, I think, in the unknown regions rather than being with the rest of the Republic.
Oh.
My bad. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. So yeah, with that. But I'm very excited. Everyone thinks it's going to be... Now, they just announced that Lucasfilm Disney has trademarked the phrase Star Wars Resistance. People think that's the name of the next animated series. But I feel like it doesn't fit.
The Resistance is what's going on in The Last Jedi. That's like the current, not this stage.
Could be that too.
I mean, because that's what they're calling themselves.
Yeah,
that's what Poe and them, they're part of the Resistance. I think that goes with that.
Yeah,
not
and
with this.
that's what I'm saying. That's why I feel it doesn't fit with the animated. If this is going to be the animated, that title would not fit with this storyline, in my opinion.
No, not at all.
But here we go. I mean, the more things we feel like we have closure on, the more questions are answered
unless that Resistance thing has to do with, how I said that I hoped that episode 9 would be quite a ways off in the future from episode 8. If they did something in between 8 and 9, that I think Star Wars Resistance would fit for something that happened in that time
I want to see more between 6 and 7. I want to see those 30 years. I feel like we need to start filling in that timeline as well. Plus, I was so happy. I even tweeted this. My theory or my hope is that one thing where, I felt like Ahsoka survived through the original trilogy and eventually met up with, say, Luke and Leia and told them all about the hero Anakin Skywalker, their father was, and what a good person he was. That could still happen. It could still happen. I want to see Luke and Ahsoka in a scene together. I wanna see that. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Or read or whatever. Just give me that story.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, and I really like, especially since Ahsoka allegedly isn't present during the events of the original trilogy. I'm like, of course, where was she? But also, when does she pop back up? Now, maybe. Or maybe she goes back to Lothal and helps protect Lothal. Maybe that's where she's at.
I want to know what that crazy staff is.
I know,
she's
right?
holding.
Right? That's got like a little, like, it looks like one of those bubble blowers. At the end with the circle there and blow the bubble or whatever. Man. Okay, so that's it.
She looks awesome though. I love that cloak.
Uh-huh. Oh, you can bet. Celebration next year. How many people are going to be wearing this?
I don't know, but...
How many people are going to be wearing this? You want to wear this next year?
Yeah, maybe.
You going to dress up like that?
Maybe.
Okay. All right. We'll see that. I'll start working on my costume then, too. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it for us. I'm sure we're going to think of many more things to say. I know I probably will, and I'll talk about it throughout the course of the show, probably in the next couple of weeks. But that is going to be it for us today. But now it's time for you guys to fire back. Let us know what you think. Hit us up. Facebook group, Twitter account, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. What did you think finale? Did you like the speculation? Of course, one thing I feel like Star Wars fans don't need any more of is speculating because it just gets us into trouble. But looks like we're going to be doing more of that. So that's it, guys. That's all I got. Of course, fire back. Let us know what you think. Until next time, may the Force be with us all.